There are a lot of different ways that you can do the shield section. They are, so long as it looks okay and it has the right component parts, there's not really a right or a wrong way. But I was just going to show you a couple of tips that I personally think make this particular element a little easier. So I've got the basic shape drawn. I've drawn around the exterior of the blue and red parts as my reference. I'm intending to make the stroke, which is currently this delightful hot pink color. I'm going to expand it. White, obviously, it's pushed, the full stroke is pushed to the outside, and this gives me the basic shape that I need, as you can see here currently with the pink. The remainder of this is going to be about the center portion. So I want to show you sort of a little bit of a tip and a trick that you can use for this part. You're going to want to keep a duplicate copy of the basic shape that you've drawn, because you may lose part of it through the process that I was going to demonstrate next. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste so that I do have that reference. And the copy that I'm going to make use of, I am going to invert the stroke and the fill so that I end up with the center part, because that's really where I'm focused right now. It doesn't have to be hot pink. It probably, in fact, should be a different color so you can visualize it more easily. And I'm going to layer it over. Obviously, I could have this fill and this stroke with a single object, but I kind of need a separate one because I don't want to lose the original. All right, once I have that, I'm going to need to, I'm going to sort of scoot it off to the side so I have that as a reference. I'm going to come back to it. I need to know where to split this thing up because I'm going to use rectangular bars of color to block out what's happening in terms of the shapes that appear here. So I've got now a bright yellow one at the top that's going to be blue, and I've got a bright yellow one at the bottom that's going to be the red. So I need to pick the colors for those guys. And then I'm going to scoot the weird yellow one I have in the middle back behind, put it in the correct position, which that gap allows me to see, and it is going to be white. So you could go ahead and make it white, you could leave it yellow, it doesn't really matter at this moment. But what you're going to do is use those shapes, the red and the blue, plus the original, to sort of chop those apart. You could use Pathfinder or Shape Builder, it doesn't really matter so long as you end up with the isolated shapes that you need. So just make sure the shield shape, the blue bar and the red bar are selected, and then I'm going to use the divide function. With divide, it uses all of the shapes that I had selected, and I'm going to delete the outside pieces that I didn't need. And now I have the inner ones. Okay, it looks like my positioning was not perfect. So obviously what I really should have done was make sure that my position was good. So let me go back a couple of steps. And I'm going to do an outline view, which is Command Y, and make sure I'm really positioning this exactly in the right place. This is why I have the copy. Command Y takes me back out. Do the same thing that I was doing a couple minutes ago. Do the divide function again, and then get rid of the outer parts that I didn't need of the blue and the red. The weird yellow bar I have in the middle, I can make white, and so I've got that now. If you look at the actual shield, the difference in what I've just done, and I'm going to scoot it to the side so that we can compare and contrast, is that I don't have the stars, obviously, and I don't have these vertical stripes. Those can be either rectangular shapes or those can be lines. But in either case, they're white going into a white stroke. So long as they extend right to the edge, the match is going to be really, really easy. And so what I'm going to do now is move this back. I'm going to temporarily turn the fill of this bottom one to a stroke so that I can see it as I'm working on it. And so the red fill I have temporarily turned into a red stroke so I can see through it. This I'm leaving as pink because I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. And I can either do rectangular bars or I can do thick strokes. Doesn't really matter. And I'm starting in a white bar and ending in an area that's going to be white. So I just want to make sure I overlap it slightly. And I'm going to make sure I'm drawing with white. I want a white fill and no stroke for the things that I'm about to draw. And if it extends slightly beyond the edge, we can always trim them later. This would be, we wouldn't have to do the trimming if we did this with the stroke, because it's a little easier to make those end where you need them to. And that one didn't start quite low enough. So we'll have to tweak it just a little bit. But I end up with the shape. And there's lots of other ways that this particular part of it can be done, but you end up with a pretty clean shape this way. And if I turn the stroke of this guy from Weird Hot Pink to white, I think one of those I made a little bit too wide, but yeah. A lot too wide, actually. So that's my basic shield. It just needs the stars in order to be largely complete, and those are shape primitives that you position, and you can do them a couple of different ways, but the basic idea is you put one there and then you can alt drag to create the next, or option drag to create the next ones, and to do the distribution that you need. You just got to make sure you're starting with the correct number, and right now my star is a little bit too big, so it's not going to fit correctly in there in the numbers that are needed, but that's the concept. Get it the right size and then sort of spread them out and distribute them.